and welcome to another exciting edition of Reading Ranch. I'm Katie Hunt, and I take my mother's more questionable literature and give it a 5-minute review based solely on the content inside and what is written on the back. It's the holiday season, and what better way to celebrate the holiday season than to bring you holiday-inspired, awful cowboy romance novels, right? You're welcome. You don't have to get me anything. Subscribe. Anyways, I figured I'd go through my mother's collection and try to find some more of the appropriately themed books. And I would just do those for the next couple of weeks, so this should be exciting. And we're going to kick things right off with Diana Palmer's Christmas on the Range. Cowboys. The thing about this book is that it's actually 2 books in one, which I did my homework ahead of time so there wouldn't be any confusion. Not that we're not all horribly confused whenever we read these But this time we are focusing on Winter Roses. Let's just dive right into it, shall we? Winter Roses. Handsome rancher Stuart York was never one to mince words. Ivy Connolly, his younger sister's best friend, found that out the hard way. During a night's stay in his Jacobsville ranch, Ivy wound up in Stuart's arms. Knowing she was too young for him, Stuart closed his heart to her. Now, years later, Ivy is determined to be treated like a grown woman, but can she tame the one man determined to avoid her embrace? Nothing says Christmas like that. Ivy winced. Rachel upset me. I forgot. No problem. You can borrow one of mine. It will drag the floor behind you like a train, of course, but it will fit most everything else. Her eyes narrowed. I suppose Rachel is after the money. Ooh, Rachel already sounds like a bitch. Ivy nodded, looking down into her small bag. She was good at convincing Daddy I didn't deserve anything. Oh, Daddy's girl. Daddy. I hope this doesn't get weird. She told lies. Ivy nodded again. But he believed her. Rachel could be so sweet and loving when she wanted something. He drank. She stopped at once. Mary sat down on the bed and folded her hands in her lap. I know he drank, Ivy, she said gently. Stuart had him investigated. Her eyes widened in disbelief. What? What? Mary bit her lip. I can't tell you why, so don't ask. Suffice to say that it was an eye-opening experience. Ivy wondered how much information Stuart's private detective had ferreted out about the private lives of the Connolly family. We just know that he drank, Mary said at once. Bullshit, that's all you know. Bull. That's like, oh, he just drank. And that's all we know. But girl. Ivy, are you sure you're cut out to be a public accountant? Mary asked after a minute. Ivy laughed. What brought that on? What did bring that on? I was just thinking about when you were still in high school. You had your heart set on singing opera. Well, that's quite the jump from I want to do numbers to I want to sing. As his head began to clear, anger began to smolder in his chest. He'd lost his self-control. He betrayed his hunger for her. He couldn't pretend that he didn't feel desire while he was kissing her. She'd felt his momentary weakness. His own ragged desire had betrayed him. With his innocent child woman, who was only 18 years old, child woman? Anger and shame and guilt overwhelmed him. He pushed her away from him, roughly, his eyes blazing as he looked down at her body in the revealing nightgown. Despite everything, he still wanted her, desperately. What do you expect when you go looking for a man in the middle of the night dressed like that? He exasperated with one big hand? Shivering, her arms crossed over her breasts. She swayed, putting a hand to her eye. She'd forgotten the headache for a few seconds while he'd been kissing her. But it came back now with a fury. She leaned back against the wall for support. Stronger than shame, than anger, was pain stabbing her right in the eye like a heat poker. Stab me right here. I was looking for aspirin. in this really see-through nightgown right next to your room where I know that you sleep. Ow. He smiled slowly. Yes, but that was before. Before what? She asked. He bent and kissed her quickly. Before me. Locked the door behind you. She waved, went inside, and closed the door. Only when she turned off the porch light did she hear the car driving away. Why didn't you go with him? You want to be with him, don't you? Ow! You're confusing me. I don't get it. Have fun last night? Miss Brown asked. I noticed that Sheriff Hayes didn't bring you home. Wasn't that Stuart York's car? Yes, it was, Ivy confessed, and hated the warm color blushing at her cheeks. Hayes had a call and had to leave. We heard on the radio that there was a shootout, Lita said. Deputy Clark was admitted to the hospital after a gunshot wound. Way to ruin the moment. I should go, she said sadly. Is it Hayes? He asked harshly. What? Are you in love with Hayes Carson? I most certainly am not, she exclaimed, before she stopped to think. There was a sigh. Well, that's something, I guess. Another pause. When I come back, we'll go for a drive and talk. That would be nice. Nice. She was lost for words, clearly. She loved the sound of his deep, slow voice. She didn't want him to hang up, but she didn't know what to say to keep him talking. I've had a long day, he told her. We always get at least one tree hugger who comes to these conferences and demands that we set up special homes for our cattle, where they can be properly housed and clothed and educated. The cows? I'm still looking for Christmas in this book. Not sure where Christmas falls in. And it did. In a maelstrom of excited delight, there was beyond rational deception. She cried out endlessly as her body ached up to receive his in helpless, trembling thrusts. He found his own relief just as she did, and then collapsed over her. She cradled him in her arms, drunk on ecstasy, blind with satisfaction. After a few breathless minutes, he managed to lift his head and look down at her in misty happiness. Now I know you're disappointed, he said dry. Now I know the sex just sucked, but... We rushed it like this, but later, I promise, I'll torture you with passion and make you scream like a wild cat when I satisfy you. Oh my god. Ew. Okay. This one's gonna get a 2. I don't know where Christmas falls into it anywhere, which is very sad to me because I was looking for a Christmas story. Diana Palmer. Can't call it Christmas on the Range if there's not even like mention of a tree or anything, but whatever. But it's gonna get a 2. And that's it for this week. So that was Diana Palmer's Christmas on the Range, White Roses. And next week we'll explore Cattleman's Choice. Ooh, sounds riveting. And that's it. So if you enjoyed this, make sure you subscribe, make sure you like it, leave a comment down below. I will hopefully have a video up next week, sometime midweek, same time, to get this Christmas tradition underway. And thanks for watching, guys. I hope you have a great holiday season, and I will see you later, cowboys.